Well, it seems like Superman is not only out to save the world, but maybe Warner Brothers Pictures. The whole future of the studio could hinge on the success of Superman, and some recent reports suggest this is a bigger problem than anybody knows. And it might be complicated by Peter Safran leaving DC Studios. Let's break down the whole story, talk about what's going on with Superman, Warner Brothers, DC Studios, and why there's so many huge problems. Superman is going to have to save the day. You don't want to miss this. Well, believe it or not, Superman might be way more important than anybody realized to the future of Warner Brothers Discovery, and the whole thing could be up in the air. But first, let's turn the clock back a little bit and kind of look at the situation that Warner Brothers actually is in. Mike DeLuca and Pam Abby's leadership at Warner Brothers Pictures as co-chiefs has been a bit of a disaster. Now, there have been some odd hits, like Barbie, but at this point, the studio seems to continue to release movies that are regularly underperforming. The latest example of that would be Mickey 17. Additionally, Joker Folie à Deux was a colossal flop and mistake. And at a time when Warner Brothers Discovery CEO Zaslav was looking to cut costs and make movies cheap, well, Luca and Adby allowed Todd Phillips to basically spend $200 million to shoot a movie that really did not need to be made, was a rather unusual and kind of lavish sequel, and basically just fulfilled the desire for Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix to do a musical. And as many of you know, the film absolutely lost a ton of money. Now recently we got a new report from Puck, and apparently Zaslav, who is rather unpopular with fans for canceling Batgirl, well, he's considering replacing both Adby and Luca. Now, according to the report, the top contender is DC Studios co-CEO Peter Safran, meaning James Gunn would be left to run that studio by himself. Now, this is not what Gunn signed up for. Gunn is a creative and definitely not a producer, so this could create a very interesting vacuum within DC Studios. Now, that's not all the bad news, because that same report says the pressure on Superman to be a massive hit is being described as almost incalculable importance, and that there is a genuine fear that if this movie is not a huge success, and that doesn't mean eking out a profit, that means big, well, Warner Brothers could go the way of 20th Century Fox and be scooped up by a larger studio, the same way Disney scooped up Fox. Now, I don't think Disney would be that. If I'm making any guesses, it would probably be Apple, who definitely has the money, and this would once again throw all DC properties up into the air and could possibly dismantle the whole thing Gunn has put together over the last 18 months. Now, in that same report from Puck, they quoted a studio veteran saying an essential element of the stock price is believing that an IP of DC is meaningful. David Zaslav's big bet is that they can show the world that the DC IP can have real value. Superman is the first movie. That will set the tone. They have a tremendous amount riding on it. Now, up until this point, many people believe if Superman flops, DC Studios could be in trouble. But it seems like the reality of the report is if Gunn's reboot completely underperforms, the whole Warner Brothers studio could be in jeopardy. Now, everything about this movie indicates it could be a huge hit, and it arrives in theaters in July, but it is crammed in there with some other big movies, including Fantastic Four and the new Jurassic Park film. So this movie is going to have to be big, it's going to have to be good, and in order to get those big numbers, you have to bring people back to the theaters over and over and over again. And with such steep competition, if both the new Jurassic Park and Fantastic Four movies are excellent, well, Superman could have a challenge getting those repeat viewers. We're obviously going to follow this one pretty closely. I think it's a huge deal for us fans. If Warner Brothers were to be sold off to Apple, there's a distinct possibility DC Studios could be cut up into pieces, and we could have a situation like we had with Marvel for so many years where different characters belong to different studios, and we really never get the DC universe we're all really hoping for. How this works out, well, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, before you take off though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily videos and we want to be your place for all the Marvel and DC news, but we're going to bring it to you truthfully and transparently so you're really in the know.